to go. Have a good meeting.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Sure.
There we go.
Can you hear us at all?
So the amplification in the room is not working.
Okay.
But the ladies checked it and said the YouTube audio is fine. So
Very
there's just 5 of us.
All right. So it is 6 o'clock. I'll call the meeting of the Personnel Committee to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Kyer.
Here.
Brandon.
Here.
And I, Delaney, am here. So our first order of business is to appoint a chairperson for this committee. What is the pleasure of the committee?
I will make a motion to have Delaney as what's the proper term?
Chairperson.
As the chairperson.
So-
second.
All right. Motion and support to appoint Delaney as the chairperson of the Personnel Committee. Roll call vote, please.
Brandon,
Yes.
Delaney,
Yes.
Kyer.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Item number 1 under new business, discussion regarding the process for village manager hire after the retirement of current village manager Walker on 12/31/2024. Mr. Walker, did you want to introduce this at all?
Sure. So as you know, my contract, end of my contract date is December 31st, 2024. That is the date of my scheduled retirement. This is a meeting is to establish a process in which council wants to use, that by virtue of a recommendation from this committee as far as selection of the village's next village manager. There are a couple of different ways that you can go about it. In the past, in the village and other municipalities that I've been involved with, the councils have made those selections, done the interviews, the advertising, laying out the job descriptions, all on their own, and hired without the use of outside consultants. Yet in some communities, they use outside consultants such as the Michigan Municipal League, in which the village is a participating dues-paying member, and they have an executive search branch to the organization. And so I have made contact with the Michigan Municipal League. I supplied you with their initial packet, which talks about a couple of different options that they have. And so certainly that's open for discussion of this committee and ultimately the council. But I think the other thing that this committee wants to talk about, it's my understanding, is the timing of recruitment and hire. And, you have some different options with that too. At times communities wait until the complete expiration or termination of the current manager takes place. They appoint an interim manager and then begin the process. Or, in other cases, they begin the recruitment process while the manager is still in place and goes through the process and then picks a start date for the new manager. So that's all I have. Relative to introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Does the committee have any questions for Mr. Walker?
Do we have like a prior job description that we used the last time, obviously, that we hired you?
We do have a job description for the manager's position.
Okay.
Yes. So I guess that's another thing too, depending upon the scope of what you're going to talk about. I think some may be a function, or personnel, that would be a function of this committee, but when you get to compensation, that would be a function of the finance committee.
Okay.
Where it says personal pre-screening under executive search review, what does that entail? What I'm really wondering is, does that mean that when they pre-screen, those applicants don't even come before the council or the subcommittee?
No, I think, that's a relationship that you set with whoever the executive search person is, but more than that, once you select a list of candidates, then they will verify qualifications. Just a pre-screen, just to make sure they really are who they say they are.
Okay. What did the process look like when you were hired?
So when I was hired, there was already a vacancy in the office of village manager here. And so I was first contacted by the village president, who asked if I was interested in interviewing with the personnel committee. I then interviewed with the personnel committee, and then eventually with the council as a whole. And then I began my position as an interim manager. I then served as interim manager for approximately 6 months. During that time, the village ran an independent search without the help of a consultant. They did make a job offer to one other candidate because at the time I was interim, and that candidate did not pass the background check, and so they withdrew their offer of employment to that person, and then began discussions with me.
How did the president contacted you? How did the president know that you were a viable candidate or that you were interested?
He was notified by a department head with the village and police chief, who knew that I had just retired from the city of Belle Lake and knew that I had the qualifications.
Thank you.
So if we didn't go with outside consultants, would it be up to you essentially to post these jobs, or
So
how would that
it
process?
would be up to the personnel committee and the council to come up with a approved advertisement, listing the qualifications that were expected. And the MML still would give some guidance with that. And then the clerk treasurer then would post the advertisements.
So that would be true in either case, whether we decided to go in-house or,
Okay.
Yeah, the only difference is the executive search, if you went with them, they would help develop those tools to attract candidates.
I personally think that we could use some help attracting candidates and setting out standards, what we want for credentials, setting up questions for interviews, finding out what is appropriate to ask, what is not appropriate to ask, especially if any of the candidates come up with a full council.
Or helpful for that matter, what type of questions are going to yield the,
Something meaningful.
right, for what the job entails, yeah. I agree. Is that the consensus of the committee, that we do enlist the help of the MML, or at least some agency?
I spoke with one
in the
woman
process.
from MML, and I asked her about their cost in comparison to other recruiters or headhunters, and she said that they're quite comparable. And I think MML's got a great reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've used MML for a number of things in the past. And yeah, they do have an excellent reputation. And then, of course, if we were going to go with the MML, we'd have to choose our package type, right? Basic, typical, or enhanced. And we have a couple of pages here on what each of those packages entails. Do we have strong feelings on which of those would best suit our needs?
Well, I see a conversation piece. I was kind of looking at typical, but I see that one thing the enhanced service includes is the community roundtables. And I know that some of the community is interested in being involved. So to get that community involved in the roundtables, we're looking at an extra $3,000.
Could we do that around could we do that in-house and not necessarily use the MML for that particular? And then you wouldn't have to worry about the extra $3,000 or whatever it is.
Do you think either of you or someone that we have in-house might know how to facilitate that?
I would assume, I mean, we do things like that kind of all the time, right? Like when we just had like the DDA with Nick presenting and it's open to the public, I can't imagine that it would be much harder than that.
So it just
Basically a
kind of-
special meeting.
Okay, and it just gives the public a chance to say what they want to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So then the price for I thought we had prices.
You
for
do.
somewhere here. For the typical, there we are.
So the
18
typical is like 18.5.
Yeah, 18,500 for members, which the Village of Holly is a member.
And I like how the typical service does include the assistance with the conditional offer of employment too. So that implies that they would help us if we needed an interim, you think?
I would say so. Yeah. And for those in the audience and for those who might be listening online, this typical this executive search overview for a typical service from the MML includes up to 4 personal visits with the search facilitator, engagement of elected officials, department heads, and staff in the profiling process, an executive community profile and recruitment brochure, advanced marketing, including customized online advertising, targeted emails, and the league's social media, direct recruitment of passive candidates. I'm not quite sure what passive candidates means.
People that might not, when we do the job posting, they might not go to the job posting. It's like we're recruiting them, we're going into their
Right.
communities like
They might
like
not
what
be
happened with
actively
Mr.
looking
Walker.
for this job, but
Right.
they might consider it if we approach them. Okay. Personal pre-screening of viable applicants and reference checks, development of customized interview questions and the candidate selection format and process, assistance with the conditional offer of employment, background check, and contract negotiation.
I think the contract negotiations, a good one too. Just being able to have an outsider's eyes on maybe things that we could, as a village, save money on, or where we might not want to save money because we need to offer something to solicit a qualified candidate. And I think an outsider point of view could be really helpful there.
Absolutely.
Mr. Walker, would you know, are there any neighboring communities that are also looking or have an open position for a village manager?
No, currently on the website, there was only one
Okay.
community that was in search right now,
Okay.
which is kind of not typical, because there has been a shortage of administrative personnel in that area.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because when I was doing my research, yeah, some of the things that came up is, I think I was looking Grosse Pointe, and they were looking to hire their manager, and all their neighboring communities were also looking for a village manager, so you're fighting against.
Time to time that happens, for sure.
Right. So that may be good for us, that we're not necessarily having to
Heavy competition.
fight.
To compete,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I looked at the basic service, and I didn't feel like, I don't think that one really includes enough for the little bit of savings there.
So if it means anything, the MML, when I was discussing with their staff, kind of our needs, they said that they felt, although it's ultimately the council's decision, they felt that the typical search probably best fit our needs.
Hmm.
So just more info.
Okay, thank you.
So without I'm not making an official motion yet, I think that the typical service is where I'm kind of landing to, and, but as part of our process, doing our own roundtables as well.
Agreed.
So where might the roundtables be appropriate? I don't know if that needs to be laid out right this minute or not, or if that's something we can explore later.
I would say that would be a good, well,
No, a question for MML.
yeah,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does the committee need to take action? I mean, if this is the route that we would like to go, is this something that we would, yeah,
You'd make a recommendation to refer to the council. for
sure,
approval.
okay.
So do we make our own motion here, or just have it kind of?
I believe so, that we
Okay.
would, yeah.
Then I would like to make a motion that this committee recommends to council that we purchase the typical service executive search overview from the MML, and we also include doing our own community roundtables
Okay.
to find our new village manager.
I will second that motion.
So we have a motion by Brandon, support by Kyer, to hire the MML for their executive search, the typical service, with facilitating our own community roundtable for the purpose of hiring a village manager. Was there anything else before we proceed to a vote on that?
Just one thing I think that we should probably hit on, everything in here and that I've researched is about 120 days on average, which puts us to the end of Mr. Walker's contract. So I think we should be prepared to maybe think about an interim manager as well. And I guess we can talk over that with MML.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that is offered in here under that contract negotiation. It seems to me that would imply temporary too, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? It's not guaranteed that we'll have a need for an interim, but it's absolutely a good thing to be prepared for,
Right.
given the time frame. So we have a motion and support. We have a roll call vote, please.
Delaney,
Yes.
Kyer,
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. All right. And then item number 2, under new business, discussion regarding the process for clerk treasurer hire after the retirement of current clerk treasurer Bigger on 12/31/2024. I would imagine that we're probably thinking along the same lines as with the manager, but what are our thoughts on that?
Would the MML do basically both for us, or would we get like double
I
charged?
have that question into them right now, and they
Okay.
have to confer with the finance department. They said they haven't had that request that they've dealt with recently, so
Okay.
they didn't tell me.
Okay.
Is it that they haven't had a situation recently where both the managers and the clerks' term or contracts are both expiring at the same time? Okay. Okay.
Is it typical that, say we hire a village manager, that village manager would then help in the search for their clerk?
I think many times the manager would have some input as far as searching for a clerk. So the clerk treasurer does not work for the manager. The clerk treasurer is a direct employee of the council, just as the manager and the attorney is. But the manager has some day-to-day oversight responsibilities pursuant to the charter of that person. So yeah, I think that does occur.
Okay.
And I think one other consideration, if you don't mind, while you're talking about whether or not to use the MML, depending upon their answer as far as costs, you may have more success in attracting a wide range of candidates for the position of clerk treasurer rather than manager. And I say that because there are just fewer candidates, I think, out in the field for management positions than there are clerk treasurers. With a clerk treasurer, you can draw that person from a variety of private sector and still public sector jobs. But I just think there's a broader scope of places to draw those people from. And so, that's something to think about too. I mean, if you do both positions, you're pushing $37,000, which is a lot of money. But you're investing in the future. So something to think about.
If we were to go with the same service for the search for the clerk treasurer, and it did cost double, that would be a total of $37,000. And that seems like a lot to me. But what we could do, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, what we could do is we could take an action to, we could take a contingent action that we could recommend this to council depending upon the answer that we get from the MML, right?
And I have that, yes, that is true. I mean, I'm not sure you have to take any action on it tonight, because you can still do that at a council meeting whenever the issue is scheduled. But you can say that you had discussion regarding it, and then you can report on your discussion at that meeting. If your decision is that you want the MML for one or the other, or both positions, then if you would like, I will contact the MML and see if a representative can attend the next council meeting, so that you may come up with some additional questions.
What might it look like if we were to approach this process without the MML for the clerk treasurer? So we would put job postings out, and then this subcommittee would do the interviews. And the village pays for background checks and evidence gathering to verify credentials.
Yep, that's an option as well.
And who does the evidence gathering and credential checking? Mr. Walker?
So in the past, for my position, the police department did the background check and compiled all the information.
And then who checks the credentials, the former jobs, the references, the degrees?
In my case, the police department did.
Oh, the police department, they would call and say, oh, you do have a,
Yeah, I would say though, depending upon your timing with this, you know, I mean, if that occurs before December, that is something that I can assist with. But I mean, certainly it's up to council.
Is that where we feel that we're leaning towards handling the clerk treasurer position in-house?
well, if MML was willing to do it, just say for another couple, few grand,
Yeah, right.
and give us a little, almost twofer, but not quite.
Mhm.
But what's a couple few that I'm comfortable with? Maybe up to another five-ish? I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I would say the same.
Because I feel like another 10, that's just too much money. Now we're getting close to
Mhm.
$30,000.
Right. Right.
Agreed.
Okay.
And especially, I think, just in this day and age, like, the opening offer that we're probably gonna come up with is gonna be more than what Mr. Walker was offered. So we're probably going to be paying more for maybe less experience. So I think we have to keep that in mind as well.
Maybe for the treasurer, we could ask them to do the less complex search, the basic service.
Hmm.
It still includes the pre-screening, interview questions,
Which
candidate selection.
was,
Here, you can look at
where
mine.
was the, thank you. There we go.
It wasn't a whole lot less, but maybe enough for them to offer us a little discount.
15,500 for the basic search. And that includes up to 3 personal visits with a search facilitator, including 1 day dedicated to interviews, a community profile and recruitment brochure, standard marketing and advertising, personal pre-screening of viable applicants, and reference checks, development of customized interview questions, and the candidate selection format and process, and then background check.
That's all the big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would be comfortable spending that amount of money.
Oh, not for the 15 grand.
Right,
Right.
If
right.
they were willing to offer us that for 5 grand or less to go in conjunction with
Mm-hmm.
the typical for the manager.
Do you know, Mr. Walker, how common is it for the MML to, I mean, how flexible is the MML typically when it comes to the pricing of their services?
Typically what they put out is what the price is because they deal with a lot of communities.
Mhm.
And so, you know, rather than have a sliding scale for every community, I think they have one set fee. But again, that would be a good question if a representative were to come to a meeting.
Mm. You know, it would also be perfectly acceptable for us to kick the question to the whole council. To say, you know, we've, you know, sort of narrowed it down to either, you know, doing the search and the vetting and so forth for the treasurer entirely in-house, or if the MML can combine their search for manager with their search for clerk treasurer for a reasonable price, we would go that route. But ultimately, give the decision to council, and hopefully, Mr. Walker, were you thinking that at the next council meeting, perhaps we could get a representative from the MML to field some of those
Check their
questions?
availability.
Okay,
And you said you already sent that question off, so you should at least have an answer to that question by then.
I told them I would like it by today, but obviously I didn't get it today.
sure.
We're trying to stall and speak very, very slowly.
Right. It's coming in any moment, yeah. What do we think? Or for that matter, yet another option, we could table that for a second personnel committee meeting as well, to continue the discussion about clerk treasurer once we have more information. So we have plenty of options.
I think I'm okay with waiting for the next council meeting and hoping we have all the answers by then.
And then allowing basically the whole council to decide on new business too about the clerk.
Yeah.
So does that require a motion?
That was going to be my my next question. If we wanted to refer this question regarding the clerk treasurer to the whole council, we need to take an action for that with a motion and support?
No, I don't think you need a motion for that.
Okay.
Because if you just simply report on your discussion, and then a motion can be made at council to take action.
Sure, okay.
And really, that applies to this entire thing. I mean, I think the council as a whole, you prefer to have a recommendation coming from your committees. It's not really required, as long as they report on the discussion at their meetings and where the decision came to make.
Sure. Okay.
Cool.
Have I missed anything? Or do we have any other questions or comments?
I don't think so.
Okay. And then, Mr. Walker, as soon as you do get a response from the MML on that question, you'll just let us know?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Is there anything else? Any questions, comments, or funny stories?
Nothing from me.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Meeting is adjourned at 6:32.
That was fast.
All mixed up with my papers here.